Well, let's continue.
Got it. All right. Okay. No sweat. We were just actually having a conversation about careers in communications and various careers they might want to study. So we are going to record this. So I'll do a quick introduction. We are at Northern Adirondack Central School. We have a team of CFES scholars. It was decided to just invite girls because sports reporting and have a women's sports reporter is significant. So we're excited and anxious to hear Janae Coakley's pathway and her story and provide the kids some advice. And we'll have some questions regarding, mentoring and struggle and how you overcame some challenges. But Janae, welcome. Thank you so much for getting on. We're not going to sweat the 15 minutes. It's no big deal. But the other thing is, and you're also you're a North Country girl for the most part.
I've actually taught at Northern Adirondack for 30 years, and my mom's from Northern Adirondack, and my brother taught there. So,
yes, so good selection of school and good connection. So, can you share with the kids some of your pathway? When you started in high school and when you decided that you might want to study journalism. And my understanding is I think you went to Quinnipiac.
I did. So, when I was a senior in high school, I went to Beekmantown. If someone would have told me that I would be doing what I'm doing right now, I would have laughed in their face and said, absolutely not. There's no way. I always loved sports. I loved watching sports on television, but I still growing up where I grew up, no one did what I did. So when I graduated from Beekmantown, went to Quinnipiac, undecided, thought maybe I'd be a lawyer or I no clue what I wanted to do really. My college roommate, though, Kim Vangel, was in the communications department. And she's like, Janae, come with me to the QU television station. They need more people and just come with me real quick. I'll buy you lunch if you come with me. I'm like, all right, cool. That changed my life going to that meeting. I was like, wait a second. I can actually be on TV and talk and cover sports because they actually needed a sports reporter for the position. So she's like, yeah, well, you just go to games, you talk to the athletes. I'm like, wait, you can actually do this? This is a job? I can study this? How do you do this? And I just wanted more information on what I had to do, what I needed to do to be a sports reporter. So that's my freshman year. Sophomore year, I continued doing it, took as many communications classes as I possibly could. My junior year, did an internship at WTNH in New Haven, Connecticut, because Quinnipiac's in Hamden, with John Pearson. He was a sports producer there. And ever since that moment, I knew this is exactly what I wanted to do, how I was going to get there. It didn't matter. This is what I wanted to do. Funny thing is, John Pearson, 20 years later, still very close with him, actually set me up with my husband. So you just never know who's going to, somehow someone's going to impact you. So, spent hours at the television station in New Haven, Connecticut, going to games, logging games, anything I could do to figure out how I could be on television, cover sports for a living. I didn't have a social life by any means. Like I said, I would, John, when do you need me to go to the UConn game? Oh, you want me to sit here in the broadcast booth and log all these tapes? I just needed to know what I needed to do to be on air. And then my senior year, he let me be an intern again. Worked with him. And so then I just figured, once I graduated, I'm going to be a sports reporter, right? That's what happens. Yeah, no, it didn't happen that easily. Sent out, back then it was VHS tapes. I don't even know if you kids even know what they are anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, VHS tapes, a resume tape to over 150 stations once I graduated from college. Was told no every single time. Thank you, need more experience. So this was in September. My parents were like, hey, we appreciate what you're doing, but you need to make some money. So you got to figure out what you're doing. So I actually I was a substitute teacher at BOCES where my mom was a teacher. And then finally that from September to February, still sending away tapes, trying to figure out how I could do this. And then in February, I got a phone call from a news director in Billings, Montana, saying, I have a job for you. It's not on television. It's not in sports, but I want you to be a producer because I think there is potential. I didn't care. I didn't even ask how much money it was. I didn't care when it started. I was like, sign me up, let me go. Because I just knew I needed an opportunity. Packed up my little Volkswagen Jetta from Beekmantown, New York, drove cross country to Billings, Montana, and was a news producer for the 5 and 9 o'clock show. I met some of my best friends there. I worked my tail off. Produced the show Monday through Friday, the 5 and 9. And then on the weekends, I would go and help the sports department out. I would help the news department out, like, cause I just needed more experience. I learned how to shoot. I learned how to, do highlights. I was there for a year and a half. Got my first on-air job at WPTZ in Plattsburgh. It was a news position. It wasn't even sports. So once again, still wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I worked out of the New Hampshire Bureau, and let's see, I think 7 months in, they called me into the news director's office and said, you know what? I don't think this is for you. Not everybody can be on television. So I got fired from like my first on-air job in my hometown. Like I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. I couldn't believe this, but I still wanted to be a sports reporter. So I wasn't giving up. And I have amazing parents who supported me, and they're like, this is what you want, go do it. Like, okay, so you failed, get knocked down, get back up, like figure out another way to do it. So sent my tape out, got a job in Yuma, Arizona. And I was a sports reporter there. I was offered the sports reporter, weekend sports anchor job, news reporter. And I just fell in love all over again. And I knew this is what I wanted to do. That's where I just knew this was my calling. And I learned how to interview athletes. I learned how to shoot football games. It was awesome. 2 years after that, I got a job in Indianapolis, Indiana, where I got to cover Super Bowls, the NCAA tournament, you name it. I actually had a photographer and a producer. So I learned how to just become a good reporter and to be on air. Was there for 4 seasons, football seasons. And I was offered the job at SNY, where I am now, where as the Jets beat reporter. And I have now been there for 13 years, which is like dog years in TV news, in TV sports. So it's been a long journey, a lot of ups and downs. I didn't even start. I mean, and like I said, if someone would have told me when I was your age, sitting there going, hey, by the way, you're going to be on television in New York covering major sporting events, I would have said, yeah, that doesn't happen. No, no way.
Yeah, that's a great story. And one of the things that I loved about your pathway is, and I knew this because I did tell the kids your father and I are very close friends. Dad and I worked together for 10 years, but when you lost your job in Plattsburgh, and you didn't quit. I mean, you persevered and you overcame. And I think that, is a true testament to your character and your parents and the way you were raised. But, one of the things, you use a lot of terms that I just think if you could just share with the kids a little bit before I ask you some other questions, what exactly are the roles in reporting? I mean, they watch a television or a news broadcast, they see somebody at the desk or they see somebody outside. What are some of the specific things that you do? And what were the skills that you had to learn to get to the level you are that maybe you didn't do so well in the beginning?
So my main job is a sports reporter. So I cover the Jets. That's my job. So on Tuesday, the Jets had OTAs, which is off the field training activities during the off season. So I went to the facility with a photographer. My photographer was there, and I had to interview a couple of the players. I went there, watched practice, talked to coach. I do a lot of studying before. I mean, I've covered this team for 13 years, but it's been a lot of turnover the last 2 years. Well, it seems to be every 2 years, there's been a lot of turnover with the Jets. But like, I know each guy, like I do a lot of research. I read a lot of articles, just so I know, like, what's the story of the day? Well, this was their first practice on Tuesday, was their first practice of phase 3, which means they're out in the field, the whole team's there. They do 11-on-11 drills, they do single drills. So this is the first time we were able to see the guys practicing, able to see the rookies with the new guys. So that was like my story of that day. So before I go into that day, I know what the story is. Then I meet with I call my producer, hey, and my producer is the guy who puts everything into the show and what they need from me. they're like, hey, why don't you do a one-on-one? If you can get a one-on-one with a player, do that. If you can get a rap, which is like where I'm on television and then I throw to like the different sound of different interviews I've done. And then I did a one-on-one, I did a talk back with another reporter. So that was like pretty much my day on Tuesday. And it's funny because my parents are laughing. They're like, you got paid to drive an hour because I live farther away. You get paid to just interview players. Like literally my all day 8 hours, 1 minute of work. You used to only see 1 minute of me on television, and sometimes only my face for 15 seconds. And they're like, okay, I don't get that. But again, I love it. And you get paid good money to just go talk football. Tonight, I'm actually anchoring, which means I'm on the desk. We do a 30-minute highlight show, and it's me and another anchor. So I'll go into the studio. I'll have to, I don't know, are the Rangers playing today? Do they play tonight? I don't even know. I have to figure out what are the major sporting events in New York tonight. I know the Mets are off, Yankees are playing. So I'll do a little research before I go in. I'll figure out what stories I'm doing, just kind of be aware of what's going on. So it's like, if I anchor, it's a whole different mindset than when out as a reporter. Like I'll have to get my hair and makeup done when I'm anchoring, I have to look presentable. Usually when I'm reporting, it's like, I have lipstick on, Like, so it just depends. I like telling a story. I like being a reporter. I like being just in charge of one story. Or anchoring, you have to know a little bit of everything. You're on the desk. So
I'm going to jump ahead, and this may be a question the girls would ask, but is it a challenge sometimes interviewing professional athletes? Because most of them are pretty grounded people, but they have egos. They're the best at the best. Do you find it challenging at times? Other than after a loss?
Well, I'm used to covered the Jets. We get a lot of those. I'll be honest with you. So, like I said, I started in Billings, Montana. And then my first real sports job was in Yuma, Arizona, where I got to cover like high school basketball and JUCO sports and like the senior Olympics, like literally 80-year-old women. So I became more comfortable with learning how to interview because let's be realistic. A baseball game is always going to be a baseball game. You win or you lose, whether it's professional or whether it's little league. It's just like, and that's kind of how I look at it. Like, there's very few athletes that intimidate me. They're just there to play a game. It's at the end of the day, if I ask a bad question and they get angry with me, like, or they don't want to answer, like, that's how it is. Like, and it took me a long time to get to this part. My sisters are nurses. They dealt with COVID. They were in the emergency room. They have a real job. Not that I don't have a real job, but Chris, you're a teacher. You make an impact on people's life. I'm after a game when a guy loses a game. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, they put a lot of work in. But at the end of the day, it's a game and it is what it is. So yeah, it's tough after a loss, but I know the guys really well. And I was talking to one of the, John Franklin Myers. I just was out in Texas doing a story with him. He's a defensive lineman for the Jets, just signed a huge contract for like $50 million. And I said, I have more respect for the guys who talk after a loss. It's super easy to talk after you win. And yeah, there are guys that say, hey, listen, I don't want to talk. And there are times like you have to talk. So I'll go at it sometimes with them. But again, it's a game at the end of the day. So my hardest interview I've ever done was actually Oscar Robertson. He was just a grumpy old man and I idolized him. I thought he was awesome. And then I remember my face burning. It was live on television. Like I wanted to cry. Like it was awful. But after games, I don't really get that. I mean, I married a coach. My husband's a coach. I know how much hard work goes into these games. And it's not as if these guys want to go out and lose a game. And it's part of the job. Like, people are going to ask you, you let 500, you let some guy run 500 yards on you. You're going to be asked the tough questions.
Right. So, at CFBS, we talk a lot about essential skills. One of them you already mentioned, your connection with your internship introduced you to your husband. So one of the things we talk about is a network. And I also did tell the kids, our daughter had babysat for you and your husband for a while. You've helped her in her career. How can kids at this age start to establish a network? Because, we talked about potential careers for them everywhere from, medical to law and all sorts of different things in between. What are some advice you could give the kids to help to build a network?
You're so right. Networking is the most important thing in any job, and you never know who can help you, whether it be the secretary who ends up becoming like the news director, or like an intern who now is, like John Pearson, the guy who helped me with my internship. He's my biggest mentor, but like my job is technically bigger than his, but I'll still send him videos. He'll send me stuff. Hey, Janae, can you help me do this? Can you help me do this? Like right now, if you want to be like on television, or if you want to be a teacher, talk to people, talk to, hey, what do you want to do? Hey, do you know someone? Do you know someone over here? Like my best friend is a sports director in Colorado Springs. She's like, Janae, do you know anybody who wants to come out here and do this? I know an intern that just worked at my station who I'm like, he'd be perfect for. And I didn't know this intern. This intern came up to me and was talking to me like, hey, Janae, what can I do to help you? What can we do? Like, always ask questions. And if you have a question, ask someone, and don't be afraid to reach out. Like I would email everybody, like Sage Steele, Robin Roberts. I would email like anybody. If I was like in Green Bay watching a game and like I saw the news, I would email them like, hey, I just really like that story. Hey, what did you do with this? Like, I just wasn't afraid to ask questions. And networking is so, so, so important, because you never know how someone can help you. Like I said, 20 years ago, I met John Pearson, and now I'm married to Scott Burrell because of him. When I got fired from WPTZ, there was one of the producer who told me, the executive producer, some people just aren't meant to be on TV. He's a huge Jets fan and reached out to me 10 years later because he's a huge SNY fan. So it's like, so karma always works out. But even then, like I never begrudged Kai, the producer. Like we still are friends. Like, and don't be angry when someone tells you what you don't want to hear. You don't just always be respectful, always ask questions, and get a network. And if you don't know where to even start, then that's perfect. Then ask someone, hey, listen, ask Mr. Mazzella, hey, listen, where should I go? Like, and if he doesn't know, then he'll find someone. Like, you always can ask somebody.
You make such a valid point, because all of us, you mentioned John as your mentor. That I was going to ask that question, and you kind of already answered it. But one of the things that all adults had significant mentors who helped them build their network, and it's difficult sometimes for students to ask those questions. But your immediate network right now are your teachers, are your counselor, are your parents, your grandparents. Start asking them questions, because really, they know somebody that can get you connected.
And don't be afraid to ask. Because I think when I was your age, I was so afraid and so embarrassed. Like I felt like if I would say, hey, listen, I want to be a sports people would have laughed at me. And I wish like I could just told myself, like, just do it. Like, who cares? Like, just go out and ask someone, my guidance counselor, like, this is what I want to do. Like, don't be embarrassed and don't be afraid. And if that person like can't help you, then go somewhere else.
Because technically you don't have a job, you have a career.
Yes.
It's not work. I mean, you love what you do, so it's not a job.
100%.
So what, you said when I was in high school, I wouldn't have thought of this. Looking back, what advice would you give Janae Coakley at Beekmantown High School back then in the early 90s that, maybe some of these girls can glean from, along
in the early 90s, you make me feel really old right now.
Really? Oh, wait, midnight. I'm sorry. Mid-90s.
I would just say, I think if I could go back and tell myself, just be patient. Like, don't be in such a hurry to like go conquer the world and go do what you want to do and like grow up. Like, just be patient and just be who you are. Like, don't be afraid to be like, I think there was a part of me, like I had awesome parents, like, my parents, like they had 5 kids and all 5 of us are so different, and they encouraged us to just be us. And I wish I could have been a little more confident in myself and been like, it's okay to want to do this. It's okay. Like to do what I wanted to do and not be embarrassed by it. Cause I was a huge nerd, like, and I'm okay with that now. And I wish I would have been okay. Like I played sports and I was an athlete and I did all that stuff. And I was fortunate. I had an unbelievable high school career, like, whatever. But I wish I would have been more confident to be like, I wish I would have studied more in my Spanish because I loved foreign languages, but it wasn't cool back then. And I wish I would have read more, but it wasn't cool then. I played the saxophone, but it wasn't cool then. And so I wish I would have, and I wish I would have been more confident in myself and been like, just be you. Like, I don't care what other people think about me. I don't care what, other people want me to be. Like, I want this and this is what I want to do, and be patient with it. And you're going to fail and you're going to embarrass yourself. But some of my greatest lessons were from when I fell flat on my face and when I failed. And I wish I would have told my younger self then, like, it's going to be okay. Like, just be patient. Yes, all your friends are getting married and having kids and have these jobs and careers, and you're still single in Billings, Montana, doing nothing. And who cares? I love the chapter of the life that I was in, and I wish I would have appreciated and been more patient with it. So patience. And it's okay that your path is completely different from your friend's path.
So, ladies, who's got some questions?
And I'm going to give Mr. Mazzella my email and text message, so you guys can email me and text message me any questions you have.
Does anybody have any questions? None at all. They're very shy. It was very hard to pull questions up earlier while, we were waiting. I got a trick question for you. Who was your favorite English teacher?
Oh, geez.
Who was my first favorite what?
Careful, Janae.
Favorite English teacher?
Gonna have to say Mrs. Mazzella. I had her twice.
Yeah, we're actually,
Hey! How are
we're on our way
Good
out of
after you.
town. She's tagging along.
I'm so proud of you.
Hot mess right here. Hot mess express.
Good answer, lady.
So, if you guys don't have any questions, I want to thank you. I actually have one more question, and you gave them advice. You talked about the mentoring. We were talking about college search process before you got here. And how did you go about that? Because I think having been in a lot of schools now post-COVID, that is something that has kind of got pushed to the side because of everything. Is there anything you could advise the students with on, you said, find what you love to do, go talk about it. Any ideas on that?
Yeah, I just find the right college for you. Don't worry about the name. Don't worry about like, oh, I got to go here because so-and-so goes here, or this is a D1 school, or this has all these. Just find a school that you're comfortable with. Like Syracuse, I applied to Syracuse, and like I said, I went in undecided, but I went and checked it out and it was really cool and all this stuff, but it was just too big for me. And then I had a really good guidance counselor, and she's like, why don't you try Quinnipiac University? It's a small school in Hamden, Connecticut. And it was a perfect fit for me. Like, try to find, it doesn't have to be, like I said, the big flashy school. And if you can, try to get away from your hometown, because you learn so much when you get away from what you're used to and get out of your comfort zone. Like, you have to be able to be scared. Like, there's a quote I have in our bathroom, and it says, do something that scares you. Do something that scares you once a day. And like, I teach our kids that. I mean, kids are young, but like, don't be afraid to be afraid. Like, it's okay to fail. And hey, listen, Beekmantown's always still there for me. The North Country's always there. Like, I can always go back there, but just be okay with taking a chance and taking a risk and finding something that fits for you. And sometimes college isn't for you, but maybe a 2-year school or a tech school or a 4-year school, or you want your master's, your doctorate. Like, just do what's good for you.
Great advice. Okay. No last question.
Something that scares you, seriously, don't be afraid. Don't stay in that comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone, because you know what? You could be covering Super Bowls and doing a lot of really cool things if you just take that one little chance and get out of that comfort zone.
If you don't stretch yourself, you don't grow.
Nope.
If you don't push yourself and challenge yourself, you don't know how far you can go. So I'm sure you guys have heard that before.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm excited that we had a room full of young ladies. I do think, it's great for them to hear a successful woman.
Yeah, women rule the world. Sorry.
Rule my house. So,
Yeah.
But so Janae, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the girls enjoyed this, even though they're a quiet bunch, and they're going to take a lot of good life lessons away.
And be on time, which is what I did not do today. So very important to know what your time zones are.
Okay, awesome.
And seriously, if you guys have any questions or anything, like just, you have my email address, reach out to me on social media. And communicate. Like we're so used to being on our phones and talking, like look people in the eye. Like I love an intern that will talk to me or write me a letter or like stay off your phones and social media as much as you can, honestly.
Yes, that
Yeah.
stuff never goes away. Especially people in media will always find out what you post.
Exactly. Even when you're 18 and like, oh, that was a long time ago.
Okay, that's wonderful advice. Maybe we'll see you when you come home.
Yes. I'm not
All
sure.
right.
But yes, and please guys, please reach out if you have any questions. And if anybody wants to be a broadcast journalist, hit me up. We'll make it happen.
All right.
Get in the right path.
Okay. You guys good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Mrs. Mazzella.
Bye.
Take care. I don't know if Kelsey's, if I'm gonna end this. Okay, we're all good.
Technology.
Yeah, I got it.